What is up, everyone? This is Jeff with Jeff Needs Sports, but not just Jeff with Jeff Needs Sports. It is also Stuart Brooking with the Morning Brew with Stu. Yes, we are doing a combined joint effort podcast this week. Most of you know that me and Stuart, it's Stuart on Stuart's show. We do the top. I think we wind up doing 36 quarterbacks this year.
Yes,
Stuart,
it was
in the
36
summer.
this year.
Top 36 NFL quarterbacks in the summer. We break them down, usually 4 a week. Correct? Is that how we did it?
Yeah, that's
If I
how we
remember
did it. It
correct?
was a long summer.
Yeah,
Summer.
but we did. I think it's our 3 years in a row, maybe
Yes,
4, at
3
least
years.
3. So 3 years in a row, me and Stuart's done that. Well, one of the big topics of the beginning of this NFL season was, in general, quarterback play is not good, or young quarterbacks failing, or old quarterbacks failing, whatever. The quarterback, all summer, me and Stuart talked about what a great position the quarterback situation was in the NFL, and now there's a lot of question marks. And a couple of weeks in, I'm like, Stu, we got to revisit this after 4 weeks, and I got to get your thoughts on how things are going, your updated top 10, and all that. So we decided to do this as a joint show. So you're going to hear a lot of Stu, you're going to hear a lot of me. If you're listening to Stu's show, thank you very much. He does a great job, and I appreciate it. If you're listening to my show, same deal here, and we would ask that you like, share, comment, send it to your friends as a Christmas present. You can do all kinds of things with our show. So again, Stuart, thanks for joining me. It's been crazy. And so first of all, coming off of the summer, going into the first weeks of the NFL, we're 4 weeks in now. Kind of like, I want to get your gut feeling on what's jumped out as surprises, what's jumped out as your disappointments at the quarterback position. I'll just lay this out for everybody. Me and Stuart grade quarterbacks on this year, and what we see, we're grading them on 4 weeks of football. And so right now, so that's how we're doing it. So Stuart, what's jumped out? Surprises, disappointments, 2024 opening month of football.
Man, I think the biggest surprise for me, I think there's two. I mean, we could talk about Sam Darnold. He's one of them.
We will talk about Sam Darnold.
I got a lot of crap for putting Sam Darnold in my top 32. I believe he cracked it. I know he cracked the top 36. I believe he was in the top 32.
Yep.
Looking back now, I maybe should have put him in the top 20 with the way he's playing right now.
Right now.
Okay. He's playing great. I think Sam is playing with a confidence that he hasn't had since USC, to be honest with you. I think he's in a place that believes in him, where there's no pressure. They've got their guy of the future, Jeff. He's playing this year how Baker Mayfield played last year. Baker was at the point last year with Tampa Bay where he was like, what do I got to lose? I got traded from Cleveland, went to Carolina. I left Carolina and went to Los Angeles. Now I'm on my 4th team. What do I got to lose? So I'm just going to come out here and play with no worries. Sam Darnold, similar path, man. And he's played great football. And I'm so glad to see Sam playing the way that he's playing. Now, let's talk about somebody else, a guy who I've been very critical of. Very critical. I believe I called him Jimmy Garoppolo. I thought he was Jimmy Garoppolo at this point. I'm talking about New Orleans Saints starting quarterback Derek Carr. The way Carr has played this year reminds me of 2016 Derek Carr. We talked about it time and time again, how I didn't think it was fair, how everybody was like, we got to forget Carson Wentz's 2017 year, but we can still hold on to Derek Carr's 2016 year and be like, where's that Derek Carr at? I know it's still in there. But my point being, I think he's playing with just like Sam, I think he's playing with a confidence I haven't seen him play with in a while. When you look back at some of the Las Vegas teams that he played with, I think there were 2 different versions of him. Early on with John Gruden, I think he was a little gun shy. I don't think he took the deep shots that were there to be had. I don't think the gunslinger version of him that we saw in 2016 that we're seeing now was there. He didn't take the shots when they were needed. And then after John Gruden left there in Las Vegas, I think he was reckless at times with the football. I think he played almost Jameis Winston-esque, where he was just throwing it up for grabs, and whoever gets it, gets it. I think this year he's done a great job of being aggressive, finding the deep shots, taking those shots, but also being smart with the football. I think he's in a system that he loves. I think he's playing in a way that he can play, and he's playing great football right now, Jeff. I'll say another surprise for me is Kyler Murray. Kyler was a guy that was outside my top 10 this year. We didn't think he'd be back in. And Jeff, if he keeps playing this way, there's a chance he might crack the top 10 again, man.
Yeah, he looks good. Early MVP candidate, in all honesty, because it looks sustainable what Kyler Murray's doing. I've been impressed. I was hard on him for the last couple years. I'm constantly. It's not that I was ever down on his talent, but it was the size of the package that his talent was in. I still believe that sometimes just physics takes over and guys take shots and stuff. But he looks great. He's handling the offense. Through the first couple of weeks, done great. And I think this Arizona team is going to be in it till the end. The West has taken a step back with all the injuries. San Francisco is gettable. Los Angeles is gettable. That does help a quarterback build. They got him Marvin Harrison Jr., who looks like Marvin Harrison Jr. early on in the season. If you watch him play, I'm like, production wise is pretty good, but like what he looks like on the field's good. So I like to see a quarterback take advantage of that. What you said about Carr is awesome. I was so high on Carr, his basically almost MVP season. I think they were the number 1 seed in the AFC when he got hurt that year. That was like, this guy gets it. Everything you said makes a lot of sense. And what I really like to see is that you can tell that it's a guy that put in the work in the offseason. I just like to see a guy that puts in the work. Same with Kyler Murray, by the way. Like, you can't be a great quarterback without working in the offseason. That's just plain and simple. You're in the film room, you're practicing, you're taking reps, you're thinking, you're going through all these virtual plays. Carr looks like a guy who's is focused on making this team better and, being a competitor and being, competing in the NFC South, which is totally gettable. So yeah, I like all three of those surprises. Sam Darnold, that's a whole conversation about just everything coming together. And another guy that has been through, a few spots and is apparently, because he wasn't ready. His first few years, he didn't succeed, had a ton of troubles. But he looks like a guy who's like, I'm going to keep working at this. I'm going to figure this out, and I'm going to become a true NFL quarterback. He is a true NFL quarterback now. And you were on this, in the summer, and I'm sure I poo-pooed it. We go back and listen, but all those are like maybe not even surprises, maybe shockers, honestly, especially the first couple of weeks where just Carr was blowing us out of the water.
Yeah, completely. And then going for, some of the disappointments, I know we're going to talk more in depth about this guy a little bit later on, but Trevor Lawrence. I mean, this is a guy who I've been high on since his freshman year. You can go by, you don't believe me, you can go back and find tweets where I said, if Clemson wants to win a national championship, they're going to have to bench Kelly Bryant and put in Trevor Lawrence. Little did I know that was going to happen later on in the year, and they're going to win it, spank Alabama all over the field. But my point being, this is a guy I've been high on. This is my highest graded quarterback I've ever had coming out of the NFL draft. I didn't get to grade Andrew Luck, so I don't get the claim of, Andrew Luck was my highest graded quarterback ever. Trevor Lawrence was, and he's been a disappointment at this point. He's been Daniel Jones for a big part of the year this year. I think there's decision-making issues. I don't think he feels comfortable in the offense. I'm not saying that's Doug Peterson's problem, but what I'm saying is this guy has not been what I thought he was going to be, where he could carry a lesser team to almost an AFC championship game or a Super Bowl. He hasn't been that guy, and it's been very disappointing to see. It's been very sad to see. Some other disappointers, I'm not necessarily disappointed as much as I am just like done with this guy. And I'm going to say Deshaun Watson at this point. Like at this point, the quarterback play from Deshaun Watson is just so hard to watch. It is so bad. This is a guy who I keep giving the benefit of the doubt that maybe that old Deshaun Watson, who at one point was a top 4 quarterback in this league, would show back up. He just hasn't been there, Jeff. And I think, ultimately that's disappointing to me, because this is a Cleveland Browns team that has it built to go win a Super Bowl right now. And their quarterback, who they're giving a crap ton of money to, is holding them back. And then my final one, it's kind of sad, because I know we had talked about some of these shorter quarterbacks, Tua Tagovailoa, Baker Mayfield. I know all these guys had drawn comparisons to Drew Brees. But if you go back and you listen to what I said in the draft, I told you that Bryce Young was the most comparable guy to Drew Brees, just in the way that he played. To see how bad he has been. And you can't say like, oh, well, like, it's the team around him because Andy Dalton steps in and that team looks like a completely different offense right now. Just how bad Bryce Young has been very disappointing to me because this is a guy who I thought, yes, he was a little small. Yes, he was tiny, but I thought this was a guy who could play the game at a high level of precision, passing, accuracy, and smarts. And right now it hasn't worked out for him.
Yeah, you're right. Young, I'm with you on Young. It's not even as much a disappointment as in I'm disappointed that we're right. You know what I mean? Like kind of, the trajectory. But again, we just talked about our surprises. All three guys, I'm going to add a couple more here that worked their way, kept in the league, kept working, stuck around, and became and are now getting a chance. I tell you what, a great surprise for me. I mean, I'm admittedly on this guy from day one, but I admittedly, I supported it and said that a lot of it was where he was at in the location. I think Justin Fields has done pretty good. He's 3-1, but he's actually playing pretty good. He's putting up a decent amount of yards. He's 18th in yards, but 18th in yards for a Steelers quarterback named Justin Fields is pretty efficient and pretty good and pretty effective. And 3-1's 3-1, and a lot of it's because of Justin Fields.
And I'll tell you this, Jeff, when you go back and you watch that Colts game, the first half, sure, like they had the training wheels on him, but when they took the training wheels off in that second half, he looked like a completely different quarterback. He looked like the guy who I thought was going to be a superstar in this league for a very long time in the second half of that Colts game.
Yeah. So I totally agree with that. Probably this is a disappointment right now, and we'll talk about him later. Just real quick, I'm going to throw out there. I've just been disappointed in what we've got out of Justin Herbert so far with the Chargers. And I know it's a different coach, different scheme, injuries, the whole thing, but just every week I'm used to turning it on and being like, I don't know, some reason I've kind of like tied myself to this guy of like, his career is going to carry me through, much like Saquon Barkley going the other way. But he's just a guy. I've just been kind of disappointed in what we've got out of him. Not necessarily, I don't think it's really quote unquote his fault, but it's just been like, man, I really expected a lot out of, what we've seen out of the Harbaugh offense and what he gets, the easy shots that he gets out of quarterbacks. I thought we would see a lot more, run, big play. And I don't know how bad he's hurt or whatever, but it's just kind of taking me back a little bit. And then, I mean, probably, I don't know, everybody else. Jordan Love, I'm kind of just 50-50. I'm going to ask you about him later. I don't know if I'm disappointed or not yet. And really some of the top guys, Geno Smith, to come back and do it again. I love to see when a guy like, now they're third years in a row, but probably my biggest surprise.
But Geno's the guy that we had questions about remember when we got to number 20 where he was, I told you I put him at 20 because I didn't know where to put him. I didn't know what he was going to be. So to see him now 2 years in a row play the way he's played has been impressive.
Yeah, exactly. That's so I've been impressed. I guess surprise and impressive are kind of going hand in hand here, but it's a podcast. And then Jaden Daniels, just awesome. Yeah. Like I understand how this is going to go. I'm not naive to think that a rookie quarterback can do this for 17 weeks and apparently go to the Super Bowl because that's how he's playing. There you go. That's how you go. So, but just I'm surprised at how he's learned to play on a field full of fast giants that want to murder him, how he's learned to play with that already. I mean, even Jackson, as talented as he is and was in the beginning, still like had to learn like, oh, that crease isn't as big in the NFL as it was in college. And, that window is smaller. This guy had the best percentage of the first 4 games in NFL history. Completion percentage, but it's just been fun to watch him play. He's doing it without getting bounced around. It's easy to compare it to the RG3 situation years ago. And I totally get that. And that's a fair comparison, but RG3 was also getting beat within an ounce of his life every game to take that team, to the playoffs. Mad respect for it. This isn't what this looks like. This looks like RG3 if he played now when you're not allowed to try to break a quarterback in half and a better coaching staff. And this is another situation. the right coaching staff at the right time with the right feel. Kingsbury is a coordinator, not a head coach. I think we all realize that. I understand. We all know what this is going to look like. Probably 12 weeks from now, we're having a different conversation because Kingsbury's offenses tend to. Now we've got these great defensive coordinators get paid a lot of money. They got 4 weeks of tape on Daniels. I know it's going to change, but been awesome. Real quick before we move on, what have you thought of? I'd say the story of the quarterback so far, Jayden Daniels.
Yeah, I mean, Jayden Daniels has been amazing. He's been the best rookie quarterback so far. I mean, I don't mean to change the subject, but we can talk about another guy to put in the disappointment range has been Caleb Williams, the second highest
I have not got to
watch.
I haven't got to watch him a lot. It's the only reason I don't have a grade on him.
The second highest quarterback I had graded. I'll tell you that Colts game was abysmal by him, but and some of his other games have been terrible too. I've been just disappointed overall in Caleb Williams. This was a guy who I thought could step in and really do some great things. So when the season ends and we reevaluate the film, it's going to be an interesting conversation to have. But Daniels has been on fire. Listen, I never liked the comparison to Lamar Jackson coming out from Jayden Daniels. I didn't think it was fair. And the reason I didn't think it was fair was my whole thing has been this. There has only ever been one person Lamar's ever been compared to. One person. And that person was Michael Vick. And Michael Vick was at a completely different level running the ball. So
yeah,
Jayden Daniels, don't get me wrong, is very, very good and elite at running the football. He is not a legendary runner of the football like Lamar Jackson is. So to get that kind of comparison to me, it never made sense. I always thought he was a better passing version of Jalen Hurts, maybe a little bit on the skinnier side. They have a very similar run style in the way that they play and the way that you can use them. They're very similar in that way. I never thought he was the Lamar Jackson type. He's a very good thrower of the football. I think you can see a CJ Stroud type of season out of him. Does that mean I think Washington's going to win 11 or 10 games? I don't think that. But what I'm saying is, can I see him throwing for 23 touchdowns this year and 10 picks? Sure. That's not a great year by any means, but for a rookie quarterback who quarterback play as a whole is down as to why we're having this conversation, that's a fantastic season in my opinion.
Yeah, I've been impressed with Stroud backing it up from last year too. I'm really happy to see that we got another true, to me, locked in franchise quarterback moving forward.
And another one to put in my told you so list.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Well, to be fair, we're going to argue about it here in a little bit when we get to your top 10. So I'll save some of that. We'll talk about this guy. There's only one more guy. Probably the only quick conversation I want to have is we both were on the fence with this guy, but we agreed at the same time that we were kind of teetering. What do we think? What do we think of Hurts this year with Philadelphia? We both said in the summer that we saw maybe some flaws, maybe some things that weren't perfect, especially towards the end of last season. And now we've kind of saw both versions. I don't even know if we've saw the great version of Jalen Hurts yet this year. The really, truly great one that we saw a couple years ago that was like, oh, give this guy all the money. It's amazing. But we're starting to a lot of turnovers, a lot of, I mean, they fought through one game they should have lost. They lost 2 games that, you know what I mean? Like if you're the big boy on the block, you probably don't win. It just, it's not the regression word or step back. I just haven't seen the step forward that I needed to see from a guy that got paid. The overwhelming conversation about these guys is that most of them got paid and they're a franchise guy. They're locked in. They're supposed to be able to take you to the playoffs, no doubt, and win playoff games. And Hurts just has some, to me, there's some flaws right now. And what are you seeing with Jalen Hurts? I mean, I think it's worth having a conversation.
I mean, the flaws are the same flaws I saw coming out of Oklahoma. These are things that I told people when everyone told me Jalen Hurts was the next guy. And don't get me wrong, he had an MVP caliber season the season that they went to the Super Bowl. I am not denying that. I'm not denying how great he was. I went on my podcast several times and admitted how wrong I was about Jalen Hurts. But there are flaws. He is not a good enough passer of the football, thrower of the football to sit there and just throw the football. we talk about this with Lamar every year, right? I say with Lamar, he's got to take that leap to where he can win from the pocket. We talk about making those 2 or 3 game-changing throws a game that you got to make. Jalen Hurts isn't there. He just isn't. And his style,
and he's fumbling. The fumbling.
Yeah, the way that you got to win with Jalen Hurts is hide his flaws. How do you hide his flaws? And we're going to talk about this in a little bit. Is the RPO game, the quarterback designed run game, all of this stuff to take the ball. It's a catch step throw. This decision making, giving him time, holding onto the ball, running around, all this type of stuff has caused the turnover issues that you're seeing and has ultimately been the reason he's not played so great. I think part of it too is Nick Sirianni is finally getting exposed as to what kind of coach he actually was. He wasn't a great coach here in Indianapolis. He just happened to have 12 on his side. What can I say when Andrew Luck's throwing touchdown passes left and right? There's nothing you're going to get hired based off of that. But yeah, man, I look at this and I don't see a world where Nick Sirianni comes back as the head coach this year. I just don't see it.
He might not come back this week, Stuart. When people hear this show, he might be gone already.
I don't see a world where, and I know they won't do this because of, I'm not going to go out on a hot take and say they're going to replace him because they paid him too much money. But you can't tell me right now that there's not a conversation within that building as to, did we make a mistake backing up the Brinks truck for Jalen Hurts?
It looks messy right now, and it's one of those that, like, I like the guy, and I know I put him in the whole category of working hard to get where he's got's amazing with his skill set. It's not that he doesn't have a great skill set, but it's a unique skill set, and the offense right now just does not fit him. I think Saquon is an awesome piece to the puzzle, but it's also regressed him a little bit. We've already seen that, like, should we force the ball? Are we getting out of rhythm and things like that happens when you have Baltimore's able to do that. Like, Baltimore's totally figured out, especially if you watch the last game versus the Bills, of like how we can, like, our quarterback might throw it 7 times and a half, but we still might beat you soundly. Like, everybody's bought in. They figured out how to do it. The receivers know they might get one shot a game to catch it, but they're playing winning football. The Eagles don't look like that right now. And I know they're going to get the receivers back, and that makes things better, especially Brown. But it was worth the conversation to have that, like, it's not perfect. So that's a perfect segue into, I'm going to get Stuart's overall 2024 quarterbacks grade through week 4 of the overall play. And then Stuart's going to tell us how to fix it and how to develop these quarterbacks that we're talking about, and how to keep guys from Sam Darnold from having to go to 3 different teams, to get that spot. So Stuart, here you go, man. I've been waiting for this for weeks. What's your overall grade for the total quarterback play in the NFL through the first 4 weeks?
I've gone back and forth on this because I thought this past week and I thought week 3 were pretty good.
I thought week 4 was pretty good.
Yeah. So I went back and forth on this, but I'm not going to let one week kind of detour what I'm thinking. Right now, it's a D+. It is. I think we've seen guys like Joe Burrow stink up the joint. And Joe Burrow, as you said, as you know from my quarterback rankings, I has the second best quarterback in the league. Yeah. And he's stinking up the joint right now. You have a guy in Jalen Hurts stinking up the joint. Some of these young guys that we are expecting, and by we, I don't necessarily always mean me. I'll throw a name out there. We'll talk about him a little bit more later on. A guy like Anthony Richardson has been way worse than I thought he was.
Tua was terrible before, by the way.
Yeah, Tua's not been great. There's been a lot of quarterback play that hasn't been great. For every Sam Darnold, Derek Carr, Kyler Murray, there has been bad quarterback play to go along with it. Horrendous quarterback play from elite guys. Even Patrick Mahomes, who I think at some point when his career is all said and done and he hangs it up, he will be the greatest quarterback to have ever played this game. Even Patrick Mahomes, Jeff, at times this year has not looked fantastic.
Mahomes isn't playing very good quarterback. He's just things are just coming together. He's playing good enough. He looks almost like Kirk Cousins this year as far as level of play, like just getting it done, and nobody knows why. We know. Here's the thing about Patrick.
By the way, Kirk Cousins is 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns. So
that's what I'm saying. But like, as far as just like, I mean, he's pretty good and he's going to win games, but it's not what we're used to seeing. thing about Mahomes, we don't have to have a much conversation about it. He's not playing great, but we know how good he is. There's really
He'll figure it out.
we're not going to sit there and ask how to fix Mahomes. Rodgers has looked terrible. I think some of that's injury.
I don't think he's looked too bad. I think he's looked good.
I think he's had moments. Well, I'll let you discuss that in the next round. You can tell me. But I think Stafford's looked really good. Even though but he's played really good quarterback. But also some of the what was the other day? I mean, I know it's a rookie, but like Bo Nix is a starting quarterback for a football team that people are paying money to see.
And he looks terrible.
And absolutely dreadful. Here's the thing. Winning is a team thing when it comes to this. This guy the other day Bo Nix had less passing yards than one of his receiver had receiving yards. That's almost impossible to do in the NFL. Bo Nix did it. He's not ready for the game and all that. So it's just been, but some of these games you watch, it's just back and forth and bad decisions and punts and incompletions even Joe Burrow taking bad sacks and, missing people and stuff. Now, we know I know most of it's going to come around by week 12, but that's still that's not the product that we've had in 4 weeks. A couple, over half of the games have been rough as far as the quality of quarterback play. And some of it's, it's a Bo Nix's of the world, the Caleb Williams of the world. I don't know what's the fix, man.
I don't know if I know what the fix is, but I know what the answer to why. I think I know. And I spent a lot of time looking at this, and there's 3 big reasons, 2 main.
I love it. I love having 3 topics.
And one big reason. I think one big reason is the lack of a preseason. And I know people like you and people like I don't give a crap about the preseason, but it matters. If you go back, to me, the most elite quarterback play took place when I was a kid, growing up watching Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Big Ben, Eli, Drew Brees. What did they all do? They all played. There were 4 preseason games at that point. They all played a drive in the third, and they either played an entire half in the 4th preseason game, or they played all the way up through the 3rd quarter. What happens in those points? Well, if there is a new offensive coordinator, new coach, whatever, you get all your struggles out in the preseason when it doesn't matter. I'll take you back to a more recent example. CJ Stroud. If you go back to Stroud's rookie year, right? Everyone is losing their mind about the season he had his rookie year. Talk about how it's one of the greatest rookie seasons of all time, right? Here's the thing, though, Jeff. Do you remember what was being said about him in the preseason? People were saying they shouldn't have drafted him. He looks terrible. Yeah. He looks bad. He's not very good. He's not an NFL quarterback.
Yep.
But that got taken out in the preseason when none of the games mattered. When nothing mattered, they took it out. What's happening now is you're getting those preseason games in the regular season when they matter, and we're starting to see guys play bad football. So that's one. Another one.
Yeah, I just want to agree real quick. These guys, and I know a lot of it's for safety, and we want to see these guys on the field all year. But at some point, these guys, if you watch training camp videos, these guys do not get touched. And I do not know how you can possibly teach a young quarterback going to the NFL how to get up from a hit from a 270-pound defensive lineman, get up, shake it off, get back to the huddle, call the play, and then have to convert a 3rd down without actually hitting them. I just don't know it'd be like a boxer never getting hit and then stepping into the ring. The first time he gets hit, he's not going to have any idea what's going on. I know it stinks. We don't want to lose guys in training camp, but these guys are not ready. They're just not ready for the physicality of it. Like the trenches, those guys get to at least wrestle against each other all summer, really get to feel it, get beat up a little bit, realize what hurts, what's an injury, all these things. And when the bullets start flying for the young guys, especially coming on, I think even like a guy like Mahomes who wins the Super Bowl and then does the world tour, and then the guys start throwing you down and beating you up, it's just a different world. And I don't know how we can prepare these guys without preseason and without practices. So to just agree with you.
Yeah. And then my second point kind of goes hand in hand with the third, but a lot of these young guys grew up in the height and right now in the peak of the 7-on-7 circuit. And there's nothing wrong with 7-on-7. It's a useful tool. I think it's very useful in teaching quarterbacks how to read coverages and how to break down defenses, all those types of things. But here's the issue, Jeff. The average time in a 7-on-7 tournament to hold on to the football is 4.0 seconds.
Oh,
and what people don't understand about that is it's not holding on to the football. That's what we say, but while you're holding on to the football, you're processing what the defense is doing, what your offense is called, how this works, what works where, all that type of stuff. I know 4.0 seconds seems like not that much time, but in football world, that's a lot of time. And you're being taught that from they play 7-on-7 as low as second grade. So from second grade through the time you leave college, you're being taught to process the game at 4.0 seconds, Jeff. And your entire playing life, you have been taught to read a defense and process what the defense is telling you in 4.0 seconds. Then you get drafted, and the average time in the NFL to this day still to hold onto a ball is 2.5 seconds.
Yep.
So we have taken a second and a half away from you and said, process what you're seeing, make the right decision, and throw it. And we're seeing a lot of these young guys, Anthony Richardson, Bo Nix, others, cannot do that.
And to pile onto that, not only that because think about that, what that is, if we do the math of it, a second and a half and an elite wide receiver is 20 yards. So that changes a route 20 yards. Any receiver's getting open in an extra 20 yards. You're not guarding an NFL receiver. So therefore, and you've got a second and a half less, and the guys in front of you are huge and they're tall and they got their hands in the air and they're trying to kill you. And you have a second and a half less. And I think that's something that, like, I can't put it into words, but you just did. And that's why every time, like, one of the biggest insults and a backhanded insult I give a quarterback. And I said this about CJ Stroud. I apologize, CJ. It's not my fault that you chose not to run at Ohio State. Didn't feel like winning national championships. That's on me. You knew what you had to do when you got to the NFL. But, like, you call a guy 7-on-7 quarterback, that's exactly what we're saying. Like, yeah, you're great when you got 4 seconds and nobody's trying to rip your head off. That's why I'm so impressed with guys like Jaden Daniels and stuff that adapt so quickly. And that is a gift. And it's also training, coaching. I don't know exactly. I would love to see a whole NFL training camp with a rookie, just to see, like, it looks like in Chicago, they were more worried about, like, I don't know, advertising and fluff pieces and telling everybody that Caleb Williams was going to the Hall of Fame already, rather than teaching how to play physical quarterback. Then now he's got to learn that the hard way. But I like what you said about that, man.
I think the second part to this, and let me say this very clearly, as a football coach, I run them. I think there's a place in the game for them, and I think they are a great tool. But RPOs are a double-edged sword. You and I have kind of talked about this privately. Here's the thing. This ties hand in hand with point 2, the 7-on-7 point, which is not just RPOs, but some of these college offenses like Tennessee's, you're being taught to read half the field. And sometimes it's the wide side of the field so you can make more throws. So if you're being taught to read a half of a field, and then you get drafted and you have to read an entire another half of the field. So now you got to read the full field, and we've taken a second and a half away from you on top of that.
And hash marks.
Defenses are more complex, and they're faster, and the windows are tighter. All this equals up to why the quarterback play has been so bad is, I got offended when Tom Brady kind of said it, but I do agree. I think coaching at those higher levels have gotten kind of lazy. And the fact of we're just going to run RPOs, we're going to fix it that way, instead of kind of teaching reads and teaching how to break things down. It's gotten kind of lazy at the higher level. I can't speak a whole lot because I do run them, but I'm just saying I think there's a time and a place for them.
Yeah, and too, like, you've had coaches on all season, Stuart, that would tell you the same thing. There's a difference between coaching almost every team in America that exists and NFL players. Like RPOs and stuff, all these schemes you run and everything. aren't designed for superhumans. Let's just be honest. Like if you're lucky enough to have one on a team, okay, now we can really, you get a Peyton Manning, like, okay, now we can do a lot of stuff. But most college quarterbacks aren't Peyton Manning. And so you take the advantages you get. And it's funny because you said all that and basically you answered the question I had for you. I think some of these quarterbacks, and I'm just going to say it, I think some of them are just too good, too athletic. Like when you can play the sport a certain way, and you're like, I'm not going to stick around here. In college football has gotten really bad. NFL is not quite as bad because of the defensive players are so much better. But in college, it is read for a second and a half, and then roll out whichever side you're comfortable with. And there's always going to be, you're going to have a freak athlete out there either get open for you or you're just going to run up the field for 15 yards. That is the number one play in college football right now. Roll out to your comfortable side. Somebody will get open for you. Or you'll dodge. Most of the time, your quarterback's one of the best athletes on the field. He's probably going to get 7 to 17 yards every time he does that. So there's no penalty for read and run. And that's what we're really doing. It's read and run. And I'm not even saying it doesn't look, it's awesome watching a college football game like that. I have no problem with it, but it's not translating. And it's not that I'm saying we're not going back to old school. I'm saying a quarterback can't be mobile and can't run and all that. It's what Stewart said. There's a time and a place. And that's why I'm so proud of what the Steelers have done with Justin Field. They're like, we know what you can do. We're going to pick our moments. We're going to pick our moments and we're going to take advantage of it. Jaden Daniels doing the same thing in Washington. Stroud is probably the best blend of it right now as far as like, oh, wait. Okay, I'm just going to jog for 20 yards because they're so scared of my arm. And Daniels has that now too. Like for the next few weeks, like teams are going to be back so far and hold their coverage so long because of how well he's thrown that if he wants to, he's going to be able to gouge some people. So,
and let me say this to defend RPOs for a minute. I do think they hide a lot of flaws. Like in my opinion, there's no way in 2017 the Eagles win the Super Bowl if they don't run an RPO based offense. It hit a lot of Nick Foles's flaws and issues, and it was that catch read throw or hey, we got this look. Coach says throw here, I throw here. Mm-hmm. Gardner Minshew, the Colts don't win 9 games last year with Gardner Minshew if they don't run an RPO heavy based offense. It's because every time he held onto the ball longer than a catch step throw, it was a 50-50 shot as to whether it was going to be picked or not. So there's a time and place because I think it's really, really good with your backups at hiding some of their flaws. But as we're seeing, what I think you're starting to see with Bryce Young, the biggest issue in Carolina was I think you have Bryce Young where the process was sped up. The team isn't that talented. It's all bad. He's played in an RPO heavy offense and he doesn't know how to read a full field. Then you bring Andy Dalton in, who's had some years, who experiences it, who knows how to read an entire field. The offense looks so much smoother, and it's smoother because he's had the time.
A lot of it's experience. Correct.
I think the solution is, and maybe we'll start to see this trend because we've seen the trend since 2008 when Joe Flacco and Matt Ryan got drafted of playing these guys immediately. I think you might see some guys start taking the Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love route where they sit for a little bit. You have a solid quarterback like a Jared Goff or a Matthew Stafford who you can get another 5 years out of. And you say, you sit here, you learn, you play the game. And then when it's your time to shine, you're going to go out here and you're going to be successful. I think that's the route we're going to start seeing guys take.
But and another thing that has to start happening to go along with our conversation, this is just my soapbox, to go along with the conversation about you got to hit a little bit in practice. You got to play serious preseason snaps. I don't understand, like the Chicago Bears right now, why they don't think that they can pull Caleb Williams out for 2 drives and talk to him and send him back in the game. Like why in the NFL?
I don't like that. I don't like that with Carolina right now. Like I understand why they did what they did, but my thing is you should have.
No, I'm saying literally during the game.
I know, but what I'm saying is if you pull my thing is this, like we had this argument with Tua when they would pull him out and put Ryan Fitzpatrick in. as a young quarterback, when you've been the alpha male, you've been the guy, you were the 5-star, you were all this, you were the number 1 overall pick, you've never been benched in your life. And then when you get benched, even if it's for 2 plays, it messes with your confidence. It just does.
You're probably right.
And so then you send these guys back out here, they're
Mhm.
going to be more scared to pull the trigger because they're like, if I throw a pick, coach is going to bench me again. Or if I do this, they're going to bench me again. So then they start to play scared and not freely, like we're seeing some.
You're probably right. You're probably right. Maybe it'll take a decade to get that mentality. I saw it with Houston. They were getting whooped the other day. Just took Stroud out, and I know that mostly is for safety, but it also doesn't mean anything for the future. Just like, hey man, like this is crazy, like whatever's happening. Or I guess I guess I don't know why you can't go into a season and a team admit like, hey, we're not going to be that good. We got to try to develop these quarterbacks. Instead of going into a season being like acting like they can go to the Super Bowl with Caleb Williams. And now it looks like a failure in Chicago because all they told us was how talented, they were, their roster was, all they needed was Caleb Williams. So now everybody in their mind is like, but no, it's a rookie quarterback that's going to struggle. Like it has nothing to do. And so I just don't know why we got to come up with these teams got to come up. And, I know they throw the money at them and we know that owners really don't care that much and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, you're really doing a disservice to a lot of talent because we've just seen it. Half of these quarterbacks are so good. Mayfield, Darnold, all these guys we talked about are with different teams because of just the long-term plan wasn't there to make the most of it. And I know sometimes that's fair. The guy needs change of scenery or coaching staff. And sometimes it's like, I don't know. It's just there's got to be an answer, but it is what it is. But I will say, the last couple of weeks, it's gotten better. I think we're going to be fine. I think by the end of the year, we have some awesome quarterbacks, especially if Daniel stays good and Darnold stays good and all this, and it's going to be great. But, I don't know. And just real quick, real side note, as a football coach, you run a heavy RPO team. I know it's too hard of a quick answer, but like, what style of defense do you like? I should put this. If you're an offensive coach, what defense do you not want to see if you're a heavy RPO team? What's the answer to nullifying that?
I think a big thing that teams have done when you look at some of the teams that have had success versus RPO teams is a lot of man coverage because it makes it hard because like for us, for instance, we run an inside zone RPO with an arrow route off the back. And it's essentially a modern day triple option. We read the defensive end. If he crashes to take the inside zone, then we pull it and the quarterback will read the linebacker. If the linebacker takes the arrow route, then our quarterback keeps it. If he takes the quarterback, we throw the arrow. A good way to contain that, though, is to play man-to-man with the quarterback spy. Now what have we done? You've eliminated we've pulled it, and now you've got a guy to take our quarterback, and you've got a guy to take the arrow. And so now what do we have? Nothing. It's a one-route process.
So if you have the coverage,
Yes. What you're seeing a lot of times at the college level now, where the RPO is starting to be, a little harder to run, is they're playing man-to-man coverage, or they're playing some of these match coverages like quarters match where it's zone, but you get a certain look and then it's match or whatever it might be to defend against these RPO style offenses. That's what's happening.
Yeah. And then when I see, like, real quick, as I see what the response has been from the offensive side now, like they're trying to figure out, like, it's always a chess match. Right now, it feels like, I think the Ravens are onto something. I think it's going to be more pistol offense, more quarterbacks under the center, because we have so many linebackers got smaller and faster that at some point you can just push them farther. So if you can get all you need is if you can get an extra yard running the ball, well, now you've changed the game. If you go from averaging 3.5 yards to 4.5 yards a carry, well, now we got a different ball game. So I think you're going to see more pistol, more under the center. I'm not saying we're going back to fullback or anything yet. Put a couple extra, tight ends in there, stuff like that.
Eventually it will, though, because I think everything comes around.
It's definitely headed that way.
Full circle moment.
Within the next couple of years,
next
couple of years, you're going to have an actual power running football team. But we have seen it fail every year because the Ravens have done it and they haven't made it to the top. The Titans did it for a decade. It just couldn't quite get there. So until it works, nobody's going to copy it. But I think that there's a chance that what the Ravens are doing right now with Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson and Picard and all that, there's a chance that this could work all season. And but we know how it's going to go. It's cyclical, and it's I mean it's never going to stop. That's why we like football. If it was the same every year, it wouldn't be fun. So all right, so here, oh no, we're doing this is top 10 time. I love it.
Yeah.
So what we're doing next is Stuart Brook. Put this out there. Stuart Brookings, current from the first month of the NFL, top 10 quarterback list, updated from this summer. There it is. So you know what, Stu? I'll let you go through it. I mean, it's your show too. You're much better at this than I am.
Josh Allen, I think Allen's played out of this world. That's why he's the number one quarterback. Patrick Mahomes, listen, at the end of the day, whether he's playing great or not, as we talked about, it's Patrick Mahomes. Like, you're not going to put Patrick Mahomes farther down. Lamar Jackson, then Derek Carr's 4, Kyler Murray's 5, CJ Stroud 6, Joe Burrow 7, 8, Jared Goff 9, Matthew Stafford 10, Sam Darnold. Here's the thing. I'm going to be honest with you. I think 3 out of these top 4 guys are going to end. 3 out of these top 10 guys are going to end up farther down on this list when it's all said and done. I think right now, guys like Sam Darnold, as great as he's playing, is a benefactor of how bad the quarterback play has been. He's a benefactor.
We'll start with 10. Who's going to take Sam Darnold's place?
I mean, it could depend. I mean, there's some other guys in here, right? Like,
I think Daniels can get Daniels crack top 10 this year.
He's going to have a CJ Stroud like season for that to happen. But I look at some of the guys who are not on here. Justin Herbert, I think if he gets it put together, could be on here. We'll see how Dak finishes.
I was going to say there's a giant name missing. The highest paid quarterback in the NFL is not on your list.
We'll see how Dak finishes the year. Which one are you talking about?
Yeah, Dak Prescott's not on your list.
Yeah.
The highest paid quarterback.
We'll see how Jalen Hurts ends the year.
Burrow's going to move up.
Burrow for sure. I have no doubt.
Stroud's the only one I would argue with, but
I think Goff is going to move up. I think Stafford might fall just because of his age. I think eventually it'll go downhill.
Running out of players.
Yeah, I think
he's good, dude.
I think too. We'll see how Baker ends the year. I think there's a possibility Baker ends the year as a top 10 quarterback in the league.
Okay.
I think there's just a lot of stuff to depend it. If you had to ask me right now, I think Sam ends the year as a top 20 quarterback, not a top 10 quarterback.
Do you think, real quick, a guy like, let's say a couple of them that aren't on there that everybody would expect? We talked about Dak. I think Dak will work. I think Dak's really good. So let's say that. Why isn't Dak on the list? Why is Dak worse than, I'll say, Matt Stafford?
I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't watched a lot of Dak this year. So I didn't feel comfortable putting him in that's the thing. I don't feel, if I haven't watched you play this year, I don't want to judge you without watching you, both good and bad. I don't want to say you suck.
Okay.
Have never watched you play this season. I don't want to say you're great and then not watch you play and you've been stinking up the joint. So
yeah, that's why I wanted your top 10 list. Josh Allen, I think he's clearly number 1 right now. The throw he made against the Dolphins the other day, for a ridiculous touchdown when it looked like a clear sack out of bounds. It's just, that's what we always talk about. The first thing I wanted to do was text Stuart and say, arm strength still matters a little. Like sometimes you just got to be able to win.
I mean, it matters, but then you got guys like Anthony Richardson completing 46% of your passes.
I said it matters a little.
Because he thinks, I can get through with everything with my arm. We'll talk about AR in a minute.
We'll talk about him in a minute. I know you're dying to. Patrick Mahomes, we talked about it. There's no reason to have a conversation about Mahomes yet. Even if it's a whole season, I don't even care. Honestly, if he takes a season off and they don't do anything in the playoffs, I don't. It means nothing to me. Brady even did it every now and then. What do you like about Lamar's game right now that you got him at 3?
I think Lamar. I've been asking Lamar to take some steps as a thrower, and I think he's done it. To be honest with you.
He looked great against Buffalo.
Like Buffalo, and then week 1 as well. Like I watched some of that game, and I said, I've been asking Lamar for the last 3 years to take that leap, and I think he's finally done it as a thrower. We'll see how the year ends up. I know we're talking about the defending league MVP, so how can you say stuff? But he won the MVP because of what he could do with his legs, not because of what he can do with his arm.
I don't think I think last year, but the thing about Lamar, it's so unique, and he has such a weird job in the NFL, is he doesn't throw the ball that much, and when he does, it has to count. Like he throws so many screens and design runs and even bubble screens, but then when he has to make the throw, like the other night, it's 3rd and long, and he puts it in the spot that we talk about. It was one of the we say it every time, like, you can count these throws. There's 5 throws a game that a quarterback has to make. Lamar made them all the other night, and they blow Buffalo out. He missed one week 1 by a toenail, literally. Or we're talking about what a great victory that was, and they beat the Kansas City Chiefs. The Vegas game was just dumb. There's no rhyme or reason for that. I kind of just wrote that off, but yeah, I like what he's done. He's just, it's a unique style of quarterback, and he's a unique person to do it. But I also like that he seems to be finishing these games, and he looks healthy. Like, he doesn't look beat up. He doesn't look like he's been through war. We used to always talk about a guy like Baker Mayfield. That dude would go out there, but at the end of the game, you were like, man, is he going to be able to play next week? Because his style of play wasn't sustainable. Now it is. Baker's completely gotten the right place, put the time in, just doing a really good job down there in Tampa. He's still like an average, a little above average quarterback, but that doesn't matter.
We're in a disagreement there, but
it's consistent. But I'm saying he's a better quarterback, and he's learned to stop getting beat up. Lamar
needs to learn to stop talking in the offseason.
What's that?
He just needs to learn to stop talking in the offseason.
Who's that?
Baker.
Oh, let's talk about Baker. Let's have a Baker conversation, because he was nowhere on any of our lists, so we haven't even talked about him. We love to talk about Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, I just think he needs to stop talking in the offseason. I mean, you start up beef with Tom Brady by saying everybody was high strung with Tom Brady here. Listen, I'm not a Tom Brady guy. The guy's caused me many nightmares. But here's the thing: at the end of the day, he is the greatest quarterback of all time. And until you got a Super Bowl ring, you can't talk about the impact you've made in the locker room compared to the greatest of all time.
That's always been Baker's thing, man. He's
playing great.
He's playing good. But in his mind, I think he believes he's won a Super Bowl somewhere along the way. Like, that's how he acts. It's a weird thing, but like I said, I do appreciate the work he's put in and how he's evolved as a quarterback. But yeah, but I also kind of, just as a content fan, I love the Brady beef, and I love Brady coming back and saying, yeah, there was, if winning Super Bowls is tension, then or stress, or what, to paraphrase, but I love it. I love Baker going after Brady, and right on his, on his home field with him in the booth. That's just great stuff. That's, Baker's good for the entertainment of the league. Much like a lot of guys are for professional wrestling. I give all the credit. I thought the dude would be done by now, out of the league, kaput, and I'd just be sitting there telling everybody I tried to tell you, and it hasn't happened. He's a franchise quarterback for a team, and we're going to see how
everybody write the date down.
Today's date?
Yeah, the day that Jeff Hunt admitted that Baker Mayfield's a franchise quarterback. Write it down.
He's somebody's franchise. I can't believe it, but I also like, hey, you gotta. I'm wrong a lot, and that's one. But I was right for a while, so I was like, I've been right for 5 or 6 years, but yeah, it's finally happening. Of course, none of us thought. Sam Darnold, same boat, but
yeah, Sam.
Jared Goff's playing pretty good. I don't think for some reason it doesn't look as good as last year, but they just blew out a good Seahawks team. So Goff's going to be right there at the end of the season, playoff quarterback, no doubt about it. So yeah, I like it. The Purdy conversation, he's played really well, but he hasn't played like above expectations. I haven't got to watch him a lot. We'll talk about him. Maybe we'll do this again halfway through the season or something. And
I wish I could have watched more of these quarterbacks. I just haven't had time.
Well, so you can't watch them all, but I've got to watch a couple games. He's doing really well. Like, he's not taking a step back. He's there. It's fine. Purdy's going to be fine. So, but I don't, Purdy might squeeze in there above, I don't know, really nobody. I mean, that's a pretty solid top 10. I mean, Purdy's right there knocking on the door, but but with him losing weapons and stuff, it hasn't looked quite the same, and they've leaned a little more in the running game. But man, when he makes the throws, he can still make the throws. So So that's the updated top 10, Stuart Brookings updated top 10, and it'll be completely different the next time we do a show later in the season.
1,000,000%. And come summer, it's gonna
Oh, yeah,
it'll look
completely.
completely different.
Yeah, we're gonna look back at this show and be like, I cannot believe that I said so and so was so and so, and we have no idea. But that's why we do the shows. It's awesome. All right, so here we go. This is a kind of a. Let's get rid of that. Good list, though, by the way. Good list, by the way. So now we're going to do a concerned or not segment. This is a quote unquote rapid fire segment. I'm going to give Stuart, his time to just answer questions on some hot button quarterbacks that we like. That are there's a lot of topic about. Is this guy it? Is it not it? Is it over? Blah blah blah. And we touched on a little of them already, but we'll let Stuart go off because he's waiting on this one. Concerned or not, Stuart? Trevor Lawrence's career.
Medium.
Okay.
I mean, from what I've seen, like he hasn't been the guy who I thought he was. I thought he was Andrew Luck 2.0.
He can't make the big throws.
He can't make the big throws. I thought he was Andrew Luck 2.0. I thought this was like seriously, Jeff. I've been on his bandwagon since his freshman year at Clemson.
I know, brother.
I thought this guy was a game changer. I thought he was the once in a generation talent, and he hasn't been that. So I'll give it a medium because the only reason I'm saying medium is because I've seen guys like Baker Mayfield turn it around. I've seen Sam Darnold turn it around, and both of those guys are nowhere near as great as Lawrence has the potential to be. So if they can turn it around, I have no doubt Lawrence can do it.
All right. Bryce Young, concerned or not?
I'm concerned. I do, because I think they move off of him next year. I think it's a Josh Rosen situation. I really, really do. I think they draft another quarterback. I think they send him somewhere else, and it's very dependent on where he goes as to how his career turns out.
Yeah, I agree. We talked about it a little bit. I know this one, you've kind of already summed this up, but Jalen Hurts, concerned or not as far as the future of the Philadelphia Eagles?
A medium. He's got to grow as a quarterback. He still hasn't grown. I think he's played very well in what his strengths and weaknesses are, but he hasn't developed more strengths. He hasn't added more weapons to his, to his utility belt. He hasn't done more to add to his game, and I think ultimately that's what's hurting him.
Tua Tagovailoa.
Concerned. I mean, you can't take the hits that this guy takes, and I love the game of football, Jeff. I love it more than just about everything else. Not everything. I love my wife more. I love my dogs more. I love my family more. But just about everything else, I love this game more. But if I took the shots that Tua took, it'd be time to – and you've made the money he's made. It's time to hang it up, man. I get it. You want to play. I understand it. But at some point, you got to think about your future more than you do the game of football.
So I think there's a skill set question there too to go on the medical questions. Your favorite one, Anthony Richardson.
Career-wise, I don't know. I can't judge that, but I'll tell you.
Well, did you say no? You're not concerned yet.
Yet. We'll make yet all capitals.
Okay.
Because Jeff, we touched on it a little bit, man. He's been worse than I thought he would be. There was no doubt in my mind Anthony Richardson was going to have some bad football. Don't get me wrong with that at all. I thought there's no way it's all going to be sunshine and rainbows. Did I expect it to be this bad? He is bad. Like the inaccuracies I was talking about have shown up tenfold. Jeff, people think I'm over exaggerating. He is completing 46% of his passes. And people can say what they want. Well, he almost won the game versus the Texans. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He would have won the game if he'd have hit Donnie Mitchell on a 15-yard out route who was wide open. Instead, he threw it to the fan 15 rows up because he can't throw a ball accurately to save his life. He's entering Tim Tebow territory as far as inaccuracy and completion percentage and how bad he is of a thrower of the football right now. Jeff, he played in 4 games last year. He played, I think, in 6 total, completed 4 of them. He played in the games he left early, the first half, first quarter. He played better in those games than he's played in a single game this year. People are mind boggled, lost their mind, went berserk, got turned on by the fact that he made 2 big throws week 1, and everybody thought, oh, this is the second coming of John Elway or Brett Favre.
John Elway, good comparison.
But then they forgot how bad the other throws in that game were. They overlooked it, how bad he's been the rest of the year. I'm not concerned. I don't know if I can say concerned for his career because it's, we're not in it far enough to see how it turns out. But right now, everything Stewart told you Anthony Richardson was going to be, he's been.
Pointing down. Okay. Your favorite, Aaron Rodgers.
He's fine. Is
he fine? They're going
to make the playoffs. They're fine.
Okay.
Aaron Rodgers. He's the second most talented quarterback of all time.
Is he going to get a wide receiver this week?
I listen. Know. Here's the thing.
Here's what I don't like about this. This is classic Aaron Rodgers team stuff. All we heard last year was like best roster in the league. This year, like, he's got to get a receiver. I thought they had the best roster in the league.
I don't think it's a receiver issue. I just think it's.
I don't either, but I think
it's a communication issue, and I will say part of that's on Rodgers. This is what you get for going on some trip in the middle of minicamp instead of working with your team. So Rodgers is.
You can't lose to the Broncos, buddy.
Yeah, he isn't completely, without fault. I mean, he does have some fault, but at the end of the day, he's fine. He's the second most talented quarterback to ever play the game. There's a difference between that and greatest, and he's fine.
This one's not career-wise. This is just for this season. Are we going to have an anomaly, and it's just not going to happen again? Justin Herbert.
For this season, I think it's just a filling out process. I don't think he's going to be very good this year. I think they're going to – I don't think the team around him is very good. I don't think he'll be very good. I think you'll start to see him turn it on a little bit towards the end of the year and give him some momentum and this team some momentum heading into next year. But right now, I don't think
yeah. Maybe is it at all possible? This will segue into our next segment. Is it at all possible that Justin Herbert's coach just needs the other team's signs? Would that make Justin Herbert better if he could borrow their defensive signals? I'm just wondering if that would help. No implications.
Is out there coaching high school football now. So
apparently, all right. So the one last bonus topic. I'm going to completely put you on the spot, and then I'll let you say your goodbyes and your promos. What's the top? I'll say top 3, because I'm sure that Stuart Brookings will have a top 3 best quarterbacks coming into the NFL draft in 2025. Who's the best 3? You don't have to tell me who's the first 3 off the board. Who would you pick 1, 2, and 3?
I actually just put that list together. Not that
I knew you'd be prepared. I didn't. You had no idea I was going to say this.
Carson Beck, I think, is number 1. Despite some ups and downs this year, I think he's still the number 1 quarterback in this draft class. Number 2 is my favorite quarterback in this draft class. He's a guy who I think last year, if he would have come out, would have surprised some people with how high he is. Drafted, he's improved on a lot of his negatives. It's Quinn Ewers from Texas.
Oh yeah,
I mean Quinn,
former high state quarterback, right?
Quinn can do everything. People talk about the Patrick Mahomes-esque type stuff. He does it, and he's better than some people at.
I think Quinn Ewers is the first pick this year.
I hope so. I love Quinn, and then I'm going to go with a bit of a surprise here. I know some people think it's Shedeur Sanders here. Not me. I'm going with. Cam Ward. I think if there's a guy who fits this year's, I just think what I think is going to happen, and rightfully so, because I do think he deserves it. He has a big arm. He is fast. I think he's more accurate than people give him credit for. I think he's a better thrower to football. And I think in underwear and shirts come April or February, this guy is going to blow everything out of the water to the point to where they look at it and say, holy smokes, this guy's amazing. Another guy to kind of look out for, I think, is Ole Miss quarterback Jackson Dart. I'm very high on Jackson Dart. I think he can be a high-level starter in this league. I think he can play at a high level. And so I'm very excited for Jackson.
I like Dart. He's got some. I like just the kind of the zip he has. Like I'm a big guy about. We talked about the time it takes to read, like how much time you have in the NFL. I like that it's from decision to delivering the ball. I like that amount of time in a quarterback because it's just tough to play in this league. And I think that's you were the first person to tell me. We did a show when Trevor Lawrence was coming out in the draft, and you were like, "Watch that motion." I can remember having the conversation like his motion is long. And sure enough, it wasn't fixed. It's not gone away, and that extra. I don't care if it's a quarter of a second, it just kills you, and just the extra thinking and all that. So I like to see these guys that can just turn and fire. At some point, that's most of your throws in the NFL. And I love it when Josh Allen can crank it, but man, just turn and fire and you keep the chains moving. Yeah, I like it. I like that list. Sanders, I don't know what to do with him yet.
I think he's Geno Smith 2.0. I just think this is a guy who is going to be average at best. I think he's going to. I wouldn't draft him with a top 5 pick, in my opinion. I wouldn't. He's a second round grade from what I've seen right now. I think there are concerns about his. To me, people talk about the arm. I don't think it's that great. I think he leaves a lot left to be desired. I think he throws touch balls when he needs to throw, heaters. I think he throws heaters when he needs to throw touches. Ultimately, Jeff, I think he's a second round quarterback. I think he's a guy who needs to sit for a couple of years, learn the game, learn how to play like a professional. But that's not going to happen. He's going to get drafted in the top 5, maybe the top 10 because of his dad and who he is. Heck, he may be the first quarterback off the board. And then in 3 years, we're going to be talking about how that was a mistake. But that's beside the point.
Most first-round quarterbacks are a mistake, by the way, except for what's the chances that Will Howard finishes the season as the third quarterback off the board?
He's my QB8 right now, I think.
Okay. That's better than I thought. I'll take that.
Let me tell you, that's a late second to third round grade. But the way quarterbacks are going off the board these days, like you're going to see 4 in the first. You're going to see 4 go in the first round. You may see 3 or 4 go in the second. So right now, he's my quarterback 8. I think he could work his way up to 6 or 7 before it's
Do you think after winning the national championship, it'll boost his stock?
Yeah, I mean, Tim Tebow won the national championship. It doesn't matter. Like, what matters –
drafted first round.
Yeah, but what matters to me is can you throw – I'm not an NFL scout, but for me, what matters
I just heard you say that was Will Howard was as good as Tim Tebow. Just leave it at that.
Tim Tebow's
we can just leave it at that.
All the time. But no, what I'm saying is I think Will Howard has the opportunity. He's big. He's tall.
Yeah.
He's white. I'm just kidding. So the scouts are going to love him.
They're going to the closer if I was him, I'd grow my facial hair out to look just like Josh Allen. Try to fool everyone.
No, but that's what I meant by that. That's the joke I meant was the scouts are going to love him because he's big, he's tall, he can throw the ball a country mile, and he fits that mold. So please don't take that as a race thing, anybody. It was just a joke.
Oh, no. If anybody knows me and Stuart. No. Looking the part still matters. Like, looking a part matters in the NFL. Like, that's still a thing. Like, good, bad, or ugly. And sometimes it's not always a positive and a negative or whatever, but it's still a real thing in today. So, but yes, it's obviously a joke, everybody.
All right. Well, that's all I got, Jeff.
But Stu, okay, tell everybody where they can find you, what you're up to, what you got going on, maybe what we're going to do in the future. The great show, man. Thanks for doing this with me.
Yeah, you can find me at StuPuck5 on Twitter for my personal, at Stu Morning for the podcast. I try to put a podcast out every week. Like Jeff said, this is a co-produced one, so him and I are both dropping this. So this will we kind of cheated a little bit. We just did this together, put one out. Unless I did that because kind of made a promise during my break after the quarterback countdown that I would kind of pull it back a little bit. Jeff knows I thought about podcast retirement for a little bit, but it was just too much of a lot. So if I can find a way to cheat to kind of do one a week or whatever I can. So that's the big thing. Here's another thing. I think Jeff and I we're gonna talk. We're gonna try to get an episode out on the Penguin series coming out on HBO Max. It's if you know me and Jeff, we're huge Batman fans. We love Batman.
Colin Farrell might win the Emmy.
The Penguin is a spinoff of the Penguin from the recent Batman movie that came out with Robert Pattinson, and it's supposed to lead into the next Batman movie that comes out. So I think Jeff and I have a lot of predictions, a lot of things to talk about with the show. And you know how Jeff is with his movies and his shows. So he's very, very strict. So if he says he likes it, he likes it. And then the following week, we have Kenny Simpson coming back on to talk about his fit and swarm 3-4 defense. And we'll kind of just talk about some of the things that he does with that, what that allows him to do.
Nice. Well, hey man, you brought it as usual. Great show for you. I'm glad I got to help you showcase your QB intelligence. Else would be better at this show, and maybe countrywide nobody be better. It's not a bunch of hype. It's not a bunch of BS. We were just talking about what we've seen so far. I'm Jeff from Jeff Needs Sports. Thanks everybody for watching. Again, this was an Off the Ball Network presentation. Me and Stuart, both members, lifelong members. It's been awesome. Their guys are great. So check me out at jhunt006 on the X. Check Stuart out. Check the Off the Ball Network out. Keep on what we're doing. Listen, like, review, anything you can do. We don't. It doesn't just help. We really appreciate it. When you reach out to us and let us know what you think, good, bad, or ugly. It's great. We got some great fans over here at the network. So that being said, I'm Jeff. That's Stuart. This is Off the Ball Network. Watch the quarterbacks, everyone. Be kind to each other. Have a great season, and we will see you soon.